Okay, welcome everyone, and we are continuing our study in the book of Daniel. Today we are going to look at the third chapter of Daniel, another supreme example of faith that is portrayed here in this chapter. In Daniel 1 and 2, we have seen that Daniel and his friends, three friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, were brought from where? They were brought from Jerusalem, right? Captives into Babylon, right? By which king? By King Nebuchadnezzar. They were brought as captives into a foreign land, into Babylon. And then we saw in the first chapter how Daniel and his friends refused to eat the king's food and refused to be part of the others who were enjoying all the king's delicacies and all of that, because they knew that some of the delicacies that were there were violating the laws of clean and unclean foods that they believed in, because they were from Israel. And so they refused it. And we know what happened and how they ultimately triumphed. And we know that they were made rulers in the provinces. Especially Daniel was elevated. Why? Because in chapter 2, he interpreted a dream, right? And that dream is very important because that has a connection with chapter 3. What happened in that dream? What was the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had one night? Anybody remembers that dream? Statue. He saw a huge statue, right? But the statue was very strange. It was made of several metals, right? The head was of gold, the chest was of silver, right? The thighs and the were of the hips and the thighs were of bronze, the legs were of iron, and the feet was of iron and clay. Now, last week, we kind of analyzed what each of these metal actually meant, right? Daniel, in his interpretation of that dream, mentioned that the head of gold represented whom? Babylon. You are that head of gold, he told Nebuchadnezzar. A proud moment for Nebuchadnezzar, right? But after Nebuchadnezzar, who ruled for about 40 years, after that, he said, a kingdom inferior to you will come, right? The kingdom inferior to you will come. Again, after that, which kingdom came? The Medo-Persian Empire came. In what way was that empire inferior? It was not in terms of strength because it defeated Babylon, not in terms of expansion of the empire because it had more empire than Babylon, but in terms of wealth, luxury, honor, respect that the kingdom itself had. In that kind of sense, it was inferior. And then the next kingdom was even more inferior in just the glory and the reputation and image that that particular kingdom had in relation to the other kingdoms, right? So that kind of reduced. Now, and so he told Nebuchadnezzar about the future, right? The future kingdoms that are going to come and overtake. And so Nebuchadnezzar acknowledged Daniel and said, "Wonderful job. You told my dream and you told its interpretation as well." And so he elevated Daniel to be the ruler of the province of Babylon. There were several provinces. Babylon was one province. That was the headquarters. But there were so many other provinces. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were given kind of like ministries, right? Like health ministry or some ministry like that. So inside Babylon. Now, and so they were also elevated to very high government positions inside the Babylonian government. Now, and he acknowledged the God of Daniel, that everybody should acknowledge that he is the real God because no other wise man was able to do what Daniel did. Right? Now, some time passed and something happened. These kings, for some time they acknowledge the God, but it doesn't remain for long. And same thing happened with Nebuchadnezzar. His humility in acknowledging the God of Daniel to be able to interpret his dream, that did not last very long. Pride soon entered into his heart, because the way the kings were, they were always surrounded with subjects who would hail them, right, and who would flatter them, and then the kings always felt elevated, and they almost felt like gods, right? And so the dream really meant to tell him that that his kingdom will not last forever, right? And there is a God who is in control of things, but kings don't generally like that concept of somebody else is in control of my kingdom and who installs it, and that my time will come to an end at some point, and my reign of my family will come to an end. So something happens here. Let's just read, let's just begin our study in Daniel 3 from, I guess from 1 to 1 to 3.
రాజుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు బంగారు ప్రతిమ ఒకటి చేయించి బబులోను దేశములోని దోరా అను మైదానములో దాన్ని నిలువబెట్టించెను. అది 60 మూరల ఎత్తును 6 మూరల వెడల్పునై ఉండెను. రాజుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు అధిపతులను, సేనాధిపతులను, సంస్థానాధిపతులను, మంత్రులను, ఖజానాదారులను, ధర్మశాస్త్ర విధాయకులను, న్యాయాధిపతులను, సంస్థానములలో ఆధిక్యము వహించిన వారినందరినీ సమకూర్చుటకును, రాజుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు నిలువబెట్టించిన ప్రతిమ యొక్క ప్రతిష్టకు రప్పించుటకును దూతలను పంపించగా, ఆ అధిపతులను, సేనాధిపతులను, సంస్థానాధిపతులను, మంత్రులను, ఖజానాదారులను, ధర్మశాస్త్ర విధాయకులను, న్యాయాధిపతులను, సంస్థానములలో ఆధిక్యం వహించిన వారందరూ రాజుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు నిలువబెట్టించిన ప్రతిమ యొక్క ప్రతిష్టకు కూడివచ్చి రాజుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు నిలువబెట్టించిన ప్రతిమ ఎదుట నిలుచుండిరి.
Okay, thank you so much. It says Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and its width was 6 cubits. Right, 60 cubits high, he made an image of gold. Now, the 60 cubits means about 90 feet. Very tall statue, right? So, but he made an image of gold. What happened over time, over the next few months, what happened was that particular dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, that image never left his mind. Right? And so the interpretation that Daniel gave to that image that he got, that reached far and wide. Right? Now, what is the problem with that interpretation reaching far and wide? It has certain symbols, right? Head and silver, and that there will be a succession in the kingdom. Now, the wise men and all of them that gathered around the king, always instigated the king, always flattered him, and then somehow convinced him that particular interpretation has been misapplied. You get my point? So it says that, your kingdom, is the greatest kingdom, because when Daniel said that you are the head of gold, he really meant it. The entire area around that literally bowed to Nebuchadnezzar, bowed to his power, bowed to his wealth, his luxury, the way he lived his life. He got the honor and respect that nobody else got in that area. That was God's providence. Because in that particular dream, the interpretation also was meant to remind Nebuchadnezzar that you being the head of gold is providence from God. And that head fading away is a providence from God. And instead of viewing it that way, selfishness and pride once again entered into his heart. Right? And therefore, now they convinced him to make this image. Now, what is the message he's trying to convince with this, convey with this message, with this statue? Right? Nebuchadnezzar got a dream where the head is of gold and then the chest of silver and so on. Right? Now he made an image, the entire image is of gold. So what is the message he's trying to convey?
He wants to be forever.
his kingdom will last forever. You know, the dominion, that his dominion is going to be there from the top to the bottom. There's not going to be any more change. You know, you see how he defied the God and the interpretation, although at that point he acknowledged and then he humbled himself. Slowly pride entered his heart, and then he made an entire golden image by the counsel of all his ministers and all of them. You know, because there were several reasons. The wise men were at this point already jealous of Daniel and his three friends. They wanted to do everything to discredit whatever Daniel mentioned to him or the positions that, you know, they were given, because these people were not Babylonians. They were slaves that were brought captives from there, and these guys being elevated to our level and Daniel even above our level. And so they said, you know, how can this ever be true? You are the greatest. Can anybody come and defeat you? And the only way to show that in the best possible way is make such an image that it will make such a powerful impression about everybody. And so he made that image so tall and he set it up in the plains of Dura, that is, you know, in Babylon, in the province of Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together all the satraps, the governors, the administrators, all the rulers, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, magistrates, all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And some of the rulers and some of the governors, some of the magistrates, judges, among them were these three people. Who was that? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were also brought for the dedication of that huge image. Finally, that day came. You know, it must have taken a long time to construct that image. And so once that image was constructed, and imagine how much gold was used for a 90 feet statue. Pure gold, right? It was the best that he could imagine or remember from the dream about that image. He must have told it to those people that I want it this way, right? Because I want to replicate that dream, but in defiance, I want to make the whole thing of gold, right? So all of them came, the satraps, the administrators, the governors, treasurers, everybody came. All the officials of the provinces gathered together. And all of them stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up, right? And now, what were they supposed to do? Right? Can someone read from 4 to 7?
ఇట్లుండగా ఒక దూత చాటించినది ఏమనగా, జనులారా, దేశస్థులారా, ఆయా భాషలు మాట్లాడవార్లారా, మీకాజ్ఞ ఇచ్చుచున్నాను. ఏమనగా, బాకా పిల్లంగ్రోవి, పెద్ద వీణ, సంఫోనియా, వీణ, విపంచిక, సకల విధములగు వాద్యధ్వనులు మీకు వినబడినప్పుడు రాజగు నెబుకద్నెజరు నిలవబెట్టించిన బంగారు ప్రతిమ ఎదుట సాగిలపడి నమస్కరించుడి. సాగిలపడి నమస్కరింపని వాడెవడో వాడు మండుచున్న అగ్నిగుండములో తక్షణమే వేయబడును. సకల జనులకు బాకా పిల్లంగ్రోవి, పెద్ద వీణ, సంఫోనియా, విపంచక, సకల విధములగు వాద్యధ్వనులు వినబడగా ఆ జనులను, దేశస్థులను, ఆయా భాషలు మాట్లాడువారును సాగిలపడి రాజగు నెబుకద్నెజరు నిలవబెట్టించిన బంగారు ప్రతిమకు నమస్కారము చేసిరి.
You know, in those days, idol worship was not new. People worshipped idols all the time. They had all kinds of gods. That was a heathen kingdom, right? But this one was not just any idol. You know, this particular image represented whom? In the mind of Nebuchadnezzar, whom did it represent? It represented himself. Daniel said, you are the head of gold. Now I am that image, you know. And so people, when they're bowing to that image, they're actually bowing down to his power, the power that Nebuchadnezzar has. He wanted to look at that, and he wanted to see how everybody will submit to me. And so he had a signal. What was that? When the herald cried out, when all the trumpet sounds, and he brought all kinds of musical instruments, when all those musical instruments play, fall down and worship, right? Their way of showing submission to that image was to fall down and worship. Right? I'm sure none of those governors and treasurers or judges, anyone had any problem with that, because first thing, it was just another image to worship, and idol worship was not new to them. Second, it was a command of the king. And they knew that the disobedience to that command would definitely entail a very harsh punishment. And so, there was little doubt in anybody's mind as to what to do. And so nobody really resisted that one. And so, because what was the consequence if you do not do it? And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Now think for a moment, why is it that he would have even prepared this fiery furnace? Why was there a provision made for this? Right? This was the level of desire that this particular king had, in order to see that the entire nation has submitted to what I am telling them and to my power. I will not tolerate any dissent. Going forward, also, that is how my rule is going to be. Right? That is how it's going to be. It's going to be with an iron hand. Any dissent will be crushed, will be punished. And this is the first example of that. I'm pretty sure he didn't expect that there will be somebody. But even if there is nobody, to know that there is a fiery furnace out there for anybody who defies is a warning for people in the future. If not this one, but if you disobey in any other manner, also you will be met with a similar consequence. May not be a fiery furnace, but there will be some kind of a punishment waiting for you. That's what he wanted to show. So at the time when the people heard the sound, the flute, the harp, the lyre, the symphony, all of that, all the people, nations, languages, people, everybody fell down and worshipped the golden image which the king had set up. There was no resistance, right? Everybody fell and then worshipped. Right? And king was so happy to see that. And then some of the wise men and some of the people who are overseeing this noticed something. There were thousands of people. Among that, they noticed something. When everybody bows, you notice if there is something different. And so, what did they notice? Anyone from 8 to 12, please?
ఆ సమయమందు కల్దీయులలో కొందరు ముఖ్యులు వచ్చి యూదులపైన కొండెములు చెప్పి రాజుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు నొద్ద ఇలాగు మనవి చేసిరి. రాజు చిరకాలము జీవించునుగాక. రాజా, తాము ఒక కట్టడ నియమించితిరి, ఏదనగా బాకాను, పెల్లంగ్రోవిని, పెద్ద వీణను, విప్పంచికను, సింఫోనియను, సకల విధములగు వాద్యధ్వనులను విను ప్రతివాడు సాగిలపడి ఆ బంగారు ప్రతిమకు నమస్కారము చేయవలెను. సాగిలపడి నమస్కరింపని వాడెవడో వాడు మండుచున్న అగ్నిగుండములో వేయబడును. రాజా, తాము శద్రకు, మేషకు, అబేద్నెగో అను ముగ్గురు యూదులను బబులోను దేశంలోని రాజకార్యములు విచారించుటకు నియమించితిరి. ఆ మనుష్యులు తమరి ఆజ్ఞను లక్ష్య పెట్టలేదు, తమరి దేవతలను పూజించుటలేదు, తమరు నిలవబెట్టించిన బంగారు ప్రతిమకు నమస్కరించుటయే లేదు అనిరి.
Like I was saying at the beginning, these rulers, the local people, they were a little bit jealous of Daniel and his three friends. And so often they would bring certain, minor accusations against these Jews. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. But the work of Daniel and his three friends was of such high quality that there was very little that they could accuse them of any wrongdoing. Now, as they were, all of them fell down and worshipped, some people came and made a complaint to the king. What is it? "Oh, king, live forever." They just, before bringing the accusation, they reminded the king of his order. King, you just made an order, so that the king cannot change that order anymore. So what is that order? King, you have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of horn, flute, and all these kinds of music shall fall down and worship the image, right? And you mentioned that whoever does not fall and worship shall be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So just for clarity, you did these two things. Now, there are certain Jews whom you have set over the affairs of province of Babylon. Again, who did that? You only set them against some affairs. You gave them certain departments, ministries in Babylon. Who are those three? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid due regard to you. You see how they are building the case against these three people, right? They did not go directly to the point. First of all, they don't care about you. They did not even come to the point. What is it? They said first, they don't care about you. They don't pay due regard to you. They don't worship your gods. They don't serve your gods. They knew about the faith of Shadrach, Meshach, Daniel, and Abednego. And so they said, they don't serve your gods. And now they came to the point, they don't worship even the golden image that you have set up. There are three people who are disobeying you. Right? First of all, they don't care about you. They're not serving any of your gods. Forget about this image. Gods are they don't worship, they don't care. And right now, they are not even bowing down to this image. And what happened? What was the reaction of Nebuchadnezzar? Right? Let's go all the way from 13 to 18.
అందుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు అత్యాగ్రహమును రౌద్రమును గలవాడై శద్రకును మేషాకును అబేద్నెగోను పట్టుకొని రండని ఆజ్ఞేయగా వారు ఆ మనుషులను పట్టుకొని రాజు సన్నిధికి తీసుకుని వచ్చిరి. అంతట నెబుకద్నెజరు వారితో ఇట్లనెను, షడ్రకు మేషకు అబేద్నెగో అను మీరు నా దేవతను పూజించుటలేదనియు నేను నిలవబెట్టించిన బంగారు ప్రతిమకు నమస్కరించుటలేదనియు నాకు వినబడినది. అది నిజమా? బాకాను పిల్లంగ్రోవిని పెద్ద వీణను సంఫోనియను విపంచకును సకల విధములకు వాద్యధ్వనులను మీరు విను సమయములో సాగిలపడి నేను చేయించిన ప్రతిమకు నమస్కరించుటకు సిద్ధముగా ఉండిన ఎడల సరే, మీకు నమస్కరింపని ఎడల తక్షణమే మండుచున్న వేడిమి గల అగ్ని గొండములో మీరు వేయబడుదురు. నా చేతిలో నుండి మిమ్మల్ని విడిపింపగల దేవుడు ఎక్కడ ఉన్నాడు? షడ్రకును మేషకును అబేద్నెగోను రాజుతో ఇలాగు చెప్పిరి. నెబుకద్నెజరు, ఇందును గురించి నీకు ప్రత్యుత్తరం ఇయ్యవలనన్న చింత మాకు లేదు. మేము సేవించుచున్న దేవుడు మండుచున్న వేడిమి గల ఈ అగ్నిగుండములో నుండి మమ్మను తప్పించి రక్షించుటకు సమర్థుడు. మరియు నీ వశమున పడకుండా ఆయన మమ్మను రక్షించును. ఒకవేళ ఆయన రక్షింపకపోయినను రాజా, నీ దేవతలను మేము పూజింపమనియు నీవు నిలవబెట్టించిన బంగారు ప్రతిమకు నమస్కరింపమనియు తెలుసుకొనుము.
Amen. Thank you so much. So Nebuchadnezzar now got so angry, right, that there is somebody who is disobeying, right? And then he did not know exactly why they were doing this, what is the reason. And so he immediately gave the command, bring them here. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, bring them here. So they brought these men before the king. Remember, these people are working in the palace itself, right? So the king probably knew them because they were working in the government of Babylon itself. And Nebuchadnezzar spoke to them saying, is it true? First thing, right? See, he knew that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they have a different faith because Daniel, they were the friends of Daniel and they served the same God as Daniel, right? But when the king says, is it true that you did this, right? He was hoping, right, that they will say, oh king, that's okay, forgive us, we will go back, we will do this or something like that, right? They will humble themselves. So is it true, first of all, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image which I have set up, right? And then without waiting for any answer, he gives them an offer. What is the offer? Now, if you are ready at this time, when you hear the sound of all these musical instruments and you fall down and worship, which I have made, good. It's okay, right? He really liked these guys. He knew that there was something special in Daniel and his three friends, right? But he just wanted to force them into submission. By exalting himself, he just wanted to give them another opportunity. Because at this point of time, this is reason enough for them to be killed. He did not have to give another opportunity. They have violated the king's command, and the punishment was waiting for them. But yet, he wanted to persevere with these people, give them one more opportunity. And what is the offer? He said, now at this time, there will be another place, another call, when all the kinds of musical instruments play and you fall down, it's all good. Go ahead. I'm not going to do anything to you. Right? But if you do not worship, now also in the second chance that I'm giving you, if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There was nothing else that he could do. The whole kingdom is watching him. Right? All the rulers came there. By now there was a huge commotion that somebody did not obey the command. And so he cannot withdraw his command anymore. Neither did he want to do it. Right? He wanted submission, entire kingdom to submit. He cannot exempt certain people from it. Right? Otherwise, his authority as a king would be questioned. And so he said, I'm giving you one more opportunity. If you do it, I'm not going to harm you. All good. But if you don't, this time I'm going to throw you in that fiery furnace. Right? And so then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego now answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. These people, they were faithful to the living God. And they knew what happened. They know their entire history. What happened in the past to Israelites when they were given to idolatry, when they rejected the voice of God, when they went after other gods. All through the history of Israel, they knew, they studied about the history of the Israelite kingdom under different kings, how those kings led them into idolatry and how the entire kingdom suffered because of that. Right? And so their first response to the king was, we don't even need to answer you in this matter. Right? We do not even need to answer you in this matter. Right? Before that, the question that he asks is, because they said that we do not serve the gods, because the people said that they don't serve your gods, the question that Nebuchadnezzar asks, who is that God who will deliver you from my hands? So soon he forgot about the same God that he exalted, that he acknowledged when Daniel spoke about him. He knew very well. But now he is questioning the power of that God. Who is that God who can deliver you from me? And these three Hebrew boys, what do they say? Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, if you have decided that that is the punishment that will be given, if that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from that burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand. If that is the case, if you have decided to throw us into the fiery furnace, our God whom we serve is completely able to deliver us, and he will deliver us from your hand. We are completely confident that he is able to do it and that he will do it. But if that is not his will, even if not, right? Even if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship that gold image which you have set up. They knew very well why he set it up. They knew very well about the entire background of why he set it up, why he made it of gold, and why he's asking people to worship. And they said, our God is able to deliver us from that fiery furnace. Because you asked that question, who is that God? I'm telling you, the God that we serve is able to deliver us. And we think he will deliver. But even if he does not, if his will is that we should not be delivered from there, even then know that we will not serve your gods, we will not worship that image. What a expression of, amazing expression of faith that we should all have, right? In any circumstance, when we pray for something, we know that he is able to do it, and we believe that he will do it. But like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we should be able to say that, Lord, even if it is not your will, that this should be done this way, right? Even then we will remain faithful to you, knowing that the outcome will be something according to God's will, and he will lead us in a better way. He wanted the king to know that, because they knew that the next step for them is what? The furnace is the next step. And if it is not God's will, they will not get an opportunity to talk to the king again. And there they are in the public place. What they are speaking is a witness to everybody. Our God whom we serve is able to deliver. But we are so faithful to him, remember, not just because he will deliver us, that even if he does not, we will still truly remain faithful to him. Because he must be thinking, if you knew that he will not deliver you, then you will fall down and worship, right? But even if we knew that he will not deliver, if that's not his will, yet it does not matter. In either case, we will not bow down to that statue. Now, this was a words of such defiance. Before everybody, they said that to the king. What is his mental state right now? He's already angry that he has to deal with this situation when the whole nation is bowing. Here are these three guys, and I am trying to save these guys. I'm trying to give another opportunity to these guys, and I'm trying to prove that I am the supreme power here. And here they are now talking about an alternate power, a power that is greater than my power. And so, he is now filled with such rage. His power is being questioned. His command is being disobeyed. And they have given such a powerful response to what he has said. His offer is rejected. So what happens next? Can someone read 19 to 23, please?
అందుకు నెబుకద్నెజరు అత్యాగ్రహమునందినందున షడ్రకు మేషకు అబేద్నెగో అయిన వారి విషయములలో ఆయన ముఖము వికారమాయను గనుక గుండము ఎప్పటికన్నా 7 అంతలు వేడిమిగా చేయమని ఆజ్ఞ ఇచ్చెను. మరియు తన సైన్యములో నుండి బలిష్ఠులలో కొందరిని పిలువనంపించి షద్రకును మేషాకును అబేద్నెగోను బంధించి వేడిమి కలిగి మండుచున్న ఆ గుండములో వేయుడని ఆజ్ఞయియగా వారు వారి అంగీలను నిలువుటంగీలను పై వస్త్రములను తక్కిన వస్త్రములను తీయకయే ఉన్నపాటున ముగ్గురిని వేడిమి కలిగి మండుచున్న ఆ గుండము నడుమ పడవేసిరి. రాజాజ్ఞ తీవ్రమైనందున గుండము మిక్కిలి వేడిమి గలదైనందునను షద్రకు మేషకు అబేద్నెగోలను విసిరివేసిన ఆ మనుష్యులు అగ్ని జ్వాలల చేత కాల్చబడి చనిపోయిరి. షద్రకు మేషకు అబేద్నెగోయను ఆ ముగ్గురు మనుష్యులు బంధింపబడిన వారై వేడిమి కలిగి మండుచున్న ఆ గుండములో పడగా.
Thank you so much. And then we will read after that. Now, what did he command? He commanded them. He was so angry that he said, you make that furnace 7 times hotter than what he was. I mean, what it was itself is, that is enough to consume, whether that or 7 times hot, what difference does it make? But, because he's so angry, and he wanted the people to understand, that if the king gets angry, how will the result be? Right? These furnaces were very common those days because they used to use it for baking bricks. In those days, they used to use this fiery furnace. They put the brick material and put it inside so that the brick would bake. he used one of those furnaces, and then he said, make it 7 times hotter. And then he commanded that the heat make 7 times more than usual. Then he commanded certain mighty men of valor, right? Because it is, 7 times hotter, and that these people are defying, he called the best people, mighty men of valor who were in his army, to bind these 3 people. Right? That was the level of anger that he had. The best people in his army, come, bind these people, these 3 guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, cast them into that burning fire. Then these men were bound as they are, in their coats, in their trousers, in their turbans, everything, whatever they had, they were, with that itself, they were cast into the midst of the fiery furnace, right? Because, and this was, this is called a summary execution. Have you heard about this term, like a summary execution? Immediate execution. There is no trial. There is no, judgment and, arguments one side or the other, nothing. Summary execution. Some countries do that, right? Whatever the dictator says, it's done. There is no trial for that person. And so because his commandment was so urgent and he was telling, just put them in quickly, these people also did not, these people who bound them and threw them, they also did not understand the level of heat that was there in that furnace. So when they went to throw, what happened? Because of the king's command was urgent, and the furnace was so hot that flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Right? And so it killed even the people. So one would assume that if you're thrown inside, then you would be killed instantly. Right? And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the midst of the burning fire. Now all 3 are in the midst of the burning fire. The men that threw them also died. And these people are now inside the burning fiery furnace. And what happened now? From 24 to 25, please. 24 and 25.
రాజగు నెబుకద్నెజరు ఆశ్చర్యపడి తీవ్రముగా లేచి, మేము 3 మనుష్యులను బంధించి ఈ అగ్నిలో వేసితిమి గదా అని తన మంత్రులను అడిగాను. వారు, రాజా, సత్యమే అని రాజుతో ప్రత్యుత్తరం ఇచ్చిరి. అందుకు రాజు, నేను 4 మనుషులు బంధకములు లేక అగ్నిలో సంచరించుట చూచుచున్నాను. వారికి హాని ఏమీయూ కలగలేదు. 4వ వాని రూపము దేవతల రూపమును పోలినదని వారికి ప్రత్యుత్తరం ఇచ్చాను.
Amen. See, King Nebuchadnezzar, first thing, when they were cast into the fiery furnace, God's presence was with them. Jesus himself was with them in the burning fires. And God is the God of fire. He is the God of fire. He is the God of cold, or whatever it is, heat. He is the one who established all of that. And that heat had no power to consume them. The heat, the fire, all of it was real. It just did not consume them. It had no power over them. And what Nebuchadnezzar noticed, he said, how many did we cast? Did we not cast 3 people? Was I mistaken, or how many did we do? People said, yes, king, 3 people. But look, he's answering, now when I see men lose, first of all. How did we put them? We tied them. First of all, where are those things? The only thing that the fire consumed was the ropes that tied them. Right? And now I see in the midst, I see the 4th man, 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Right? I see 4 men. What are they doing? They're not burning to death. They're walking, and they are not hurt. From far, when he was seeing through the fire, it seems like they were walking in the fiery furnace, They're not hurt. They're loose.
How can we see anything in the fire?
How can we see anything that is in the fire? But he saw. But he saw, right? So that is another thing, that their appearance was brighter than what was the fire, the brightness of the fire. So when he was seeing from far, God's presence was there, that not just Nebuchadnezzar, but the whole nation witnessed what was going on. Yeah. And the fourth one was like the Son of God. How does Nebuchadnezzar have any idea? Who is that God? Forget about God. He says he's like the Son of God. How does he even know about this concept of the Son of God? Daniel and his three friends, from the time that they entered into the king's palace, they were different from all the others. And they had many opportunities to introduce their faith to many people in Babylon. And Nebuchadnezzar heard about it. They not only introduced their God to Nebuchadnezzar, so he definitely knew about their God, but they also mentioned about all the prophecies about Jesus. They mentioned about all the prophecies about the Son that is going to come, the Redeemer that is going to come. That one day the Redeemer, Jesus, the Christ, the Anointed One, the Messiah is also going to come. And from what they knew from the scriptures, they gave a description of the image of the Son of God. And what is his role in delivering people. And putting all that understanding together, Nebuchadnezzar applied it to what he was seeing in the furnace. And he says the fourth one is like the Son of God. He knew exactly that what was going on there matched with what I heard from Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And so all of them came back into his mind. And so, yes, he did have knowledge about God. Not only about God, his interest was so much in the God of Daniel that he heard them, to the point where he also heard the prophecy that his son would come one day and deliver his people. That is what is going on there. The fourth one has to be the Son of God.
He came to his senses.
He came back to his senses and his realization. Right? And then once again, like how he did in the second chapter, once again he acknowledged the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In fact, can we read 26 to 30, please?
అంతట నెబుకద్నెజరు వేడిమి కలిగి మండుచున్న ఆ గుండము వాకిలి దగ్గరకు వచ్చి, శద్రకు, మెషకు, అబేద్నెగో అను వారులారా, మహోన్నతుడగు దేవుని సేవకులారా, బయటికి వచ్చి నా యొద్దకు రండని పిలువగా, శద్రకు, మెషకు, అబేద్నెగో ఆ అగ్నిలో నుండి బయటికి వచ్చిరి. అధిపతులను, సేనాధిపతులను, సంస్థానాధిపతులను, రాజు యొక్క ప్రధాన మంత్రులను కూడి వచ్చి ఆ మనుష్యులను పరీక్షించి, వారి శరీరములకు అగ్ని ఏ హాని చేయకుండుటయు, వారి తల వెంట్రుకలలో ఒకటైనను కాలిపోకుండుటయు, వారి వస్త్రములు చెడిపోకుండుటయు, అగ్ని వాసన అయినను వారి దేహములకు తగలకుండుటయు చూచిరి. నెబుకద్నెజరు, శద్రకు, మెషకు, అబేద్నెగోయను వీరి దేవుడు పూజార్హుడు. ఆయన తన దూత నంపి తన్నాశ్రయించిన దాసులను రక్షించెను. వారు తమ దేవునికి గాక మరి ఏ దేవునికి నమస్కరింపకయు ఏ దేవుని సేవింపకయు ఉందుమని తమ దేహములను అప్పగించి రాజు యొక్క ఆజ్ఞను వ్యర్థపరిచరి. కాగా నేనొక శాసనం నియమించుచున్నాను, ఏదనగా ఈ విధముగా రక్షించుటకు సమర్థుడగు దేవుడు గాక మరి ఏ దేవుడును లేడు. కాగా ఏ జనులలో గాని, రాష్ట్రములో గాని, ఏ భాష మాట్లాడు వారిలో గాని శద్రకు, మెషకు, అబేద్నెగో అను వారి దేవుని ఎవడు దూషించునో వాడు తుత్తునీయులుగా చేయబడును, వాని ఇల్లు ఎప్పుడునూ పెంట కుప్పగా ఉండుననెను. అంతట నుండి రాజు శద్రకు మెషకు అబేద్నెగో అను వారిని బబులోను సంస్థానములో హెచ్చించెను.
Amen. You know, first thing is, now he went closer to that fiery furnace and he called them out. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, come out. Right? Come out here. And how does he address them? Servants of the Most High God. At this point, there is no other thing than to acknowledge and then to submit himself and call them, you are the servants of the Most High God. Right? He put away all his pride and that golden image, he forgot about it. And he said, please come out. Right? And then they came out from the midst of the fire and everybody was looking at them. They saw these people, their bodies. The fire had no power about them. Not even a single strand of hair on the head was burnt. Right? Their garments were not affected. Even the smell of fire was not there on them. You know, sometimes when we are near fire and cooking and all of that, how that smell comes, even that was not there. And Nebuchadnezzar, after that, he spoke, right, publicly to all the provinces. And he said, saying, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel, right? Angel means messenger. In this case, he sent Jesus himself, the Son of God, and delivered his servants. And the servants who trusted in him, and they have frustrated the king's word and yielded their bodies that they should not serve nor worship any God except their own God. Look at the example. In that particular country, you know, if somebody threatened, don't go to this idol, go to that idol, they would conveniently go there. It did not really mean anything to them. They would not threaten their life. They would not risk their life for a certain belief or for a certain God. But these people trusted in their God to the point where they risked their lives and they disobeyed the king's word. Such is their trust, is what Nebuchadnezzar is acknowledging now among everybody. And now I am making a decree, right? Therefore, I make a decree that any people, any nation, any language, if you speak anything wrong, anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you shall be cut into pieces. Your houses will be made an ash heap, because there is no other God who can deliver like this. I am telling you, among all the gods that we have, that I have, that you have, no other God can deliver like this. And so you may have your own faith, but if you speak anything wrong or amiss or against this God, why? Because his own satraps and his own governors, his own officials, government officials, were speaking bad about the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. If anybody does that again, you will be cut into your pieces and your house will be a heap of ash. I'll burn your houses down. You know, that is the level of the submission that he went into to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And once again, they were already high officials, but he promoted them further in the province of Babylon. He gave them even higher positions in the departments, in the ministries of that province. You know, a great lesson that we can learn here. God doesn't promise that we will not walk through fire. There will be times when we will feel like we are walking through the fire. We may feel the heat, but it will not consume us. When we are walking through the fiery furnace, we may feel the circumstances. We may feel the pressure of the circumstances. But like how Jesus was with them, Jesus will be with us. And ultimately, others also will see that God is with them. And God is with you and God is with me in our trials. Right? A fiery furnace represents trials in life, represents challenges in life. Right? But as we are going through those challenges, we need to understand that on the other side, we have a better opportunity to represent God. We have a better opportunity to be an even bigger testimony for God. Just like how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were the highest power of the land acknowledged him. They had no idea what is going to happen when they were thrown into the fiery furnace. But God used that situation, right? God used that particular situation to do this, right? If God wanted to be there, he could have shut down that fiery furnace. He could have destroyed that. so that there will be no opportunity for them to put Daniel, his friends, into that fiery furnace. No, but he allowed the fiery furnace to be there. He allowed them to be put inside that and then rescued them from there. And so sometimes when we question our circumstances, we need to understand that God allows us to go through certain things in order to have us be a very strong testimony after that particular trial. But we should be like Daniel and his 3 friends. We should be like that, who at the beginning of the trial, if Lord, if it is your will, I will go in. I will face this situation no matter what happens. If you bring me out, if you don't, even then I will be faithful to you. That's the faith that we should express. No matter what happens in this situation, I will remain faithful to you. But I trust that you will deliver. I trust that you will see me through. Any questions or any amen? And one more thing, where was Daniel in all this? Right? Have you ever wondered? He was there, where was he? He was not bowing, he was watching from somewhere, or he bowed down, or there were. First thing is, we have to know that Daniel never mentioned where he was, but in most likelihood, he was the leader, ruler of the province of Babylon. In all likelihood, he went on an assignment that the king sent him for. The king may have sent him on a week-long or 2-week or a month-long assignment to another province in Babylon. So he most probably he was traveling. He was in some other place. While these 3 were still here, he may have been doing the king's work. He was a government official. Government officials needed to travel. So he was most probably in some other place. Yeah. Thank you.